All right, so buckle up because we're doing a deep dive into the world of semiconductors today. TSMC just released their earnings for the third quarter of 2024.
Yeah.
And don't worry, we're not going to get bogged down in spreadsheets and stuff.
Yeah.
We're here for the interesting stuff, the insights, the big picture of where the tech world is headed.
Yeah, I think of TSMC as, the engine room of the AI revolution, right?
Yep.
We're seeing how powerful is this engine, who are they selling it to, and can they actually keep up with the demand?
Yeah, so let's start with the basics. Just a quick overview for anyone who hasn't had a chance to really look at these reports yet. TSMC they're killing it. Record revenue. Everybody wants their, cutting edge 3-nanometer chips, AI. Everyone's talking about it. But what I found striking is not just that their growth is good, it's that their growth is blowing past all expectations.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? What's the story?
Yeah, it's about anticipating the future and not just reacting to it, right? TSMC is making these strategic bets, and their early and heavy investment in AI already seems to be paying off.
And speaking of bets, their CEO basically came out and said that demand for their AI chips is insane. They're doubling, they're tripling capacity, and it's still not enough. What's driving this sort of insatiable hunger for these chips?
Well, there are a few things going on. So AI is moving from, these kind of niche applications into the mainstream, like across industries, right? So think self-driving cars, personalized medicine, even just supercharged data analysis.
Right.
And this creates this massive need for these high-performance chips that TSMC produces. The second thing is that, they've got this 3-nanometer technology, and it's the most advanced in the world. And to put that in perspective for people, 3 nanometers refers to basically the size of the transistors on the chip. So the smaller the transistor, the more you can cram onto a chip. And what does that mean? That means faster processing and hopefully better energy efficiency. And companies, they're really clamoring for that advantage, right?
So it's kind of like having the fastest car, on the market. Everybody wants one.
Exactly.
And the numbers really back that up. Revenue from these AI server processors is actually expected to triple this year alone. Triple.
Yeah, and to put it into context, that puts them on track to make up a solid, maybe mid-teens % of their total revenue. So this is not just some little side hustle for TSMC,
Right.
This is really becoming a core driver of their business.
Yeah, AI is the main course. It's not just the appetizer anymore.
Exactly.
But there's another interesting aspect to their strategy. It's not just about, raw processing power.
Yeah.
They're also, pouring resources into advanced packaging technologies, specifically something called CoWoS. So what is that, and why is it significant?
Right, so CoWoS is super important because it helps these powerful chips actually reach their full potential. Remember that car analogy we were talking about? Imagine you've got this supercharged engine, but the chassis can't handle it. So CoWoS is all about packaging the chips together in a really efficient way, and that improves communication between them and reduces energy consumption.
Oh, I see. So it's like they're not just building a faster engine, they're optimizing the whole car.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. Okay, so we've talked a lot about TSMC's kind of dominance in AI. What does that actually mean for the tech landscape as a whole, though?
Well, it gives them a tremendous amount of influence, right? Every company that's racing to develop the next big AI thing, whether it's self-driving car systems or some kind of revolutionary medical imaging software, they need these chips. And that puts TSMC in a really powerful position.
Yeah.
They're calling the shots.
That's like they're holding all the cards, right?
Yeah.
But it's not all, easy street. They've got some pretty big challenges, too, especially as they're trying to expand globally.
Right, building those mega fabs. I mean, these are massive semiconductor fabrication plants. It's not cheap. It's not easy. And when you start factoring in all the different regulations, labor costs, energy constraints around the world, it gets even more complicated.
And speaking of energy, I know in their earnings call they highlighted those energy concerns. Taiwan's energy limitations specifically seem like a pretty big hurdle. How big of an issue is that for them, really?
It's a huge issue because these mega fabs, they use a crazy amount of electricity just to run. So if TSMC can't get, enough power and from reliable sources and ideally sustainable sources, it could limit how much they can produce. And of course, that impacts their bottom line.
So it's not just about building the factory, it's about keeping the lights on, literally.
Exactly.
And what about these rising costs, with all this global expansion? Are they passing those costs along to their customers?
Well, it seems like they're trying to walk a fine line. They keep talking about their value selling approach, which basically means they're saying, look, our technology is the best, we're reliable, so you're going to pay a premium for that. But, it remains to be seen if customers are actually willing to foot the bill, especially with all the, economic uncertainty in the air.
It's classic supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
Demand is through the roof, but can they actually keep up while dealing with these rising costs?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
But, since we're talking about global expansion, let's dig into that a little bit more. They're making some interesting moves, especially in the U.S.
Yeah, that Arizona project, that's a big one. What's the latest on that?
It's massive. They're going all in on Arizona. We're talking like potentially 3 mega fabs there, each one twice the size of their usual plants. Their first fab there is already making test wafers using their 4-nanometer process, and they've got even more advanced stuff in the pipeline.
Wow. That's a huge investment.
Yeah.
Seems like they're pretty serious about having a strong U.S. presence.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not just Arizona, right? They're expanding elsewhere, too.
Yeah, for sure. Their first specialized fab in Kumamoto, Japan, that one's about to open, and they're already working on a second one. And in Europe, their joint venture in Dresden, Germany, that's officially underway, focused on automotive and industrial stuff.
So they're really spreading out, establishing themselves in these key markets all over. But that kind of global ambition, I imagine that comes with its own set of headaches, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, on top of the energy costs, the construction costs, there's also just like more competition to worry about.
Right, the competition. It's not like TSMC has this whole playing field to themselves. Who are the biggest threats on the horizon?
Well, Intel's making a comeback. They're spinning off their manufacturing, trying to be a big player in this foundry business.
Interesting.
And then there's Samsung. That's their old rival, right? They're always trying to one-up TSMC on technology, market share, everything.
Yeah, so it's like this high-stakes chess match with TSMC trying to stay one step ahead. But then, like you said, there's, geopolitics to think about, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole U.S.-China situation, that creates a really complicated backdrop for TSMC. They're walking a tightrope, trying to keep both of those superpowers happy while dealing with things like export controls and, the potential for things to get disrupted.
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure. And then there's the whole, the memory of that global chip shortage not that long ago. It feels like that was kind of a wake-up call for a lot of people about just how important these tiny little chips actually are.
Yeah, I mean, it exposed how fragile those global supply chains really are.
Right.
And it highlighted just how essential TSMC is to, like, the entire tech ecosystem.
Yeah.
But it also, showed why this global expansion strategy is so important for them. By spreading out their manufacturing, they're in a better position to deal with whatever comes next, whether it's geopolitical stuff, economic problems, even natural disasters.
So it's like they're building a safety net, in a way.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. For our listeners who are, maybe not as deep in the weeds on this stuff, what's the big takeaway here? Why should they care about, what's going on inside TSMC?
Because TSMC's story, it's really our story too. They're leading this technological revolution that's going to impact all of us in every part of our lives. So whether they succeed or whether they stumble, it's going to have ripple effects throughout the tech world and beyond.
It's true. They kind of have the keys to the kingdom, in a way. So whether you're, an investor, a tech enthusiast, or just someone who wants to understand the forces shaping our world.
TSMC is worth watching.
Absolutely. They're kind of a microcosm of all these bigger trends we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Technology, globalization, how power is shifting on a global scale. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something I've been thinking about. If TSMC is right, if this AI revolution is really just getting started, what kind of world are we moving into? One where AI is just like seamlessly woven into our everyday lives, where it's transforming industries, changing what's possible. It's exciting to think about.
It is, but it also raises some big questions, right? About ethics, about regulation, even about, what intelligence really is. These are conversations we need to be having now as this technology keeps evolving at this incredible speed.
I totally agree. It's a future worth thinking about, worth debating, and maybe even worth, trying to shape. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all of that. Until next time.